Now, last year, more than 2 million of us talked to the Citizens' Advice and got help, mostly for problems with benefits, debt and housing. And that number, 2 million, has stayed level for the past few years. But the way we access Citizens' Advice is changing. Many more of us are using their online services. But will this mean that there'll be less face-to-face support available in the future? 4 bureaux are being closed in Leeds. Sandy Goulding has been volunteering at one of them for the last 10 years, and now she's decided to leave.
One of the reasons I left was because I thought that volunteers were being treated very badly. The short consultation paper that we received made no reference to the place that volunteers would have in the reorganised service. At the moment, we're open 3 mornings a week and 2 afternoons a week, and we are busy. And the Bureau is scheduled to close on the 31st of March. And what the overwhelming impression is, both from Leeds CAB and from the Council, is they are determined, irrespective of what the needs of our local people are, to close these bureaus and say, well, you can come into Leeds or you can ring up. And that seems to me entirely unsatisfactory.
Sally Goulding there. Well, listening to that is Gillian Guy, the Chief Executive of Citizens Advice. Gillian, it must frustrate you to hear that volunteers are being told that they're no longer needed. Why are bureaus being closed in areas like North Leeds?
Well, we certainly don't subscribe to the view that volunteers aren't needed, and that is our unique selling point, really, that we have over 20,000 of them working for the service. What we do recognise is that times are tough. They are tough at the moment for our clients and for people. They're also tough for our key funders, who are local government. But what's key to us nationally is to protect and indeed enhance the service that we've been famous for 75 years. And we're actually proud of our reach through our volunteers across all our communities in England and Wales, over 3,000 locations. And when we talk about those 2 million people being constant, those are face-to-face appointments. And there are 2 sides to this story as to how we protect our service and enhance it. One is our responsibility to make a good business case, to show that we save £750 million a year when we give advice directly to the public. To support innovation, so we have Bureau working within libraries and GP surgeries, to secure national contracts and to open up those other channels for those people who prefer to use online and telephone, so that we protect face-to-face.
But as I said, there are 4 bureaux being closed in North Leeds. Do you have more closures planned?
We don't plan any closures. What we seek to do is make sure that we secure availability across England and Wales, and also the quality of advice that we give. Our local bureau take decisions based on their local circumstances, and what we try and do nationally is make sure that availability continues, make sure that quality continues, and also give the support that we're talking about through helping efficiencies, helping innovation and securing national contracts.
So then can you give an assurance that actually those number of bureaux are going to stay the same?
What we can give assurance about is the coverage and reach of our very valuable and valued service. And as local bureau determine how they want to organise themselves, we'll be testing that availability and quality. But I do want to say that there's a much wider picture here that has to be picked up by governments, both national and local, which is that if we're complacent about the availability of advice, I need to say it doesn't survive on thin air. And we've got to have a strategy for making sure that that advice is supported throughout England and Wales.
OK, well, from time to time we do get emails from listeners saying that they've tried to access the CAB, but they didn't find contacting you easy. That's the experience of Peter Savage, who emailed us.
The problem that I had was with the purchase of a television online.
Peter's new TV came without the correct fittings. After the company repeatedly failed to send him the right ones, he thought about contacting Trading Standards.
But when I looked on the Trading Standards website, the telephone number that they gave was for the Citizens Advice Bureau, which I found a bit strange. When I tried ringing them, I couldn't actually get through because they said all their operators were busy at the time and could I have a look at their website, etc. Well, not everybody has access to computers.
So rather than keep trying over the phone, Peter headed to his local Citizens Advice Bureau in Accrington.
When I arrived there, a lady was just closing up. They're only open for 3 days a week. mid-morning to mid-afternoon, which once again, not everybody can make that sort of a time. Certainly if they're working, they couldn't get there.
Peter thinks the citizens' advice is really important, but thinks they have too much on their plate.
Now, if you find yourself in difficulties, seemingly the Citizen Advice Bureaus is the main source of help. And I think it is too much for the CAB to cope with.
Well, Gillian Guy from the Citizens Advice is still with us. Gillian, you have taken on more with trading standards and consumer futures, but you've also received more government funding, so you shouldn't be, as Peter Savage suggests, stretched, should you?
I think the reality of life is that we'll always be stretched because we are a demand-led service and there is masses of demand out there. But you're absolutely right that when we take on a new service, not only do we make sure we have the resources for that service, but we make sure that those resources are directed in large part towards the Bureau. I would just say that the consumer service that came to us allowed us to develop our telephone helpline, which has been hugely successful in dealing with those consumer issues. And I'd also reference the fact that we understand that demand is burgeoning, and that's why we're trying to extend into online and telephone to free up those face-to-face appointments for those people who really need them.
Is the service moving increasingly online?
No, I wouldn't say it is. What I'd say is the service is protecting the face-to-face service for which we are famous and for which we are very proud. But what we do need to do is make sure we're available to many more people in the way in which they want us available. And for many, that is about being online, and for others, it's about the telephone.
But Peter said that he couldn't get through on the phone. Now, at the moment, I think when you ring Citizens Advice in England, you get put through to a local call centre. Is that going to change?
Well, there are two systems actually, and we need to make sure that they come together. But one of them is about the consumer service, and we have very good pickup rates on that service, and indeed they're improving and getting better. As for the telephone service, generally for the Bureau, we're investing in that very heavily indeed, because we want to extend that channel availability, as I say, to protect the face-to-face provision that we have for 2 million people every year in our Bureau.
Gillian Guy from Citizens Advice, thank you.